You need to watch this if you struggle with fear or love a good scare. The jester will prepare a place for you. Imagine a room cloaked in darkness. Your heart races, senses on high alert. Welcome to the Jester Game, brought to you by the twisted minds behind Storybook Coins. This Jester Game will leave you mad. Here's how it works. A host, dressed as a jester, sets up a room filled with your worst nightmares. It could be anything, from creepy dolls to spine-chilling whispers. Your challenge? To sit or stand in that room in complete darkness for the desired amount of time. Feeling brave yet? Here's the catch. If you decide you can't handle it, you can signal to quit at any moment. But if you stick it out, you'll have to face what's in the room before claiming your prize. Think you can outsmart the jester and conquer your fears? This game isn't just about endurance, it's about confronting what lurks in the shadows of your mind. So gather your courage, dim the lights, and step into the jester's realm. The prize awaits, but so does the terror.
That's really sweet. And all of this.
This is Storybook Radio.
Sunday afternoons always felt longer than the rest of the week. Darren sat deep in his leather recliner, the cushion molded perfectly to his frame after years of use. Across the den, the television flashed bright greens and whites as a football game played loudly. The Austin Armadillos were crushing the Denver Stallions. Quarterback Tyler Maddox dropped back in the pocket and launched a perfect spiral downfield. The stadium erupted through the speakers. Touchdown. Darren barely reacted. He leaned farther into the chair, eyes drifting toward the ceiling fan, spinning slow circles above him. 43 years old. 22 years married. The years had passed faster than he expected. When he was younger, he imagined adulthood would feel bigger, louder somehow. Instead, it felt scheduled. Work, dinner, bills, television, sleep, repeat. He rubbed his jaw and exhaled slowly. When he proposed to Valerie inside a Taco Bell 22 years ago, the world had seemed wide open. They were young then. Too young to understand what routine could do to a life. Back then she wore silk gowns to bed. Back then things were funnier. Back then they couldn't keep their hands off each other. Darren stared at the television again. The Armadillos scored another touchdown. Still, he didn't celebrate. It had been almost a month since he and Valerie had been intimate. The thought sat in his mind like a stone. He shifted slightly in the chair. A man could convince himself that loyalty mattered more than desire, that discipline defined character. But loneliness had its own gravity, and sometimes it pulled harder than promises. Footsteps echoed softly from the hallway. Valerie appeared in the doorway. She wore maroon satin pants and a loose cotton t-shirt. Her hair, usually styled with careful curls and oils, rested in a loose puff that caught the afternoon light. She walked straight toward the television and stopped, blocking the screen. Darren blinked. "What's the score?" she asked. For a brief moment, irritation flashed across his mind, but he swallowed it. 40-12, he said. Armadillos. She tilted her head slightly. Be nice. Then she turned and walked back toward the kitchen. Darren crossed his arms and sank deeper into the recliner. The room returned to silence. The football game continued, and as he stared at the slow spinning fan above him, a quiet question slipped into his thoughts. Does she still find me attractive? The doorbell rang, a quick ding that cut clean through the quiet house. Darren frowned. Nobody visited on Sundays. He pushed himself out of the recliner and walked toward the front door, the floorboards creaking faintly beneath his steps. For a moment, he stood there thinking. Then it clicked. Kelly. His daughter never knocked. She used her key, so if she rang the bell, she must have forgotten it. Darren unlocked the door and pulled it open. Kelly stepped inside with a rush of warm afternoon air. Hey, Dad. She moved past him casually, tall like her mother, about 5'8", with straight black hair that faded lighter at the tips. Gold hoop earrings bounced softly as she walked. She dropped her purse onto the couch like she owned the place, which, in a way, she still did. Darren shut the door. He watched her for a moment. Kelly had changed since leaving for college, not drastically, but enough that he noticed it every time she came home. There was confidence now, less hesitation in the way she moved. "How's life in those fancy dorm rooms?" he asked. Kelly shrugged. "They're nicer than you think." Darren circled around her and reclaimed his recliner. "You could still live here," he said. "Your college is 8 miles away." Kelly laughed under her breath. "Dad?" Then she grabbed her purse again. "I'm not staying long. Someone's waiting in the car." Darren leaned forward slightly. "A guy?" Kelly smiled, but the smile carried something delicate inside it. "I met someone." Darren raised an eyebrow. "Where'd you meet this mystery gentleman?" She twirled a strand of hair around her finger. "Online." Darren groaned softly. Kelly laughed. "It's not like that. It's an app called Pink Passion." The name stirred something in Darren's memory. Pink Passion. He'd heard it before. Recently. Kelly continued talking, excited now. "It's actually huge. Everybody uses it. The cool thing is, if you match with someone, you're entered into drawings to win money. That's why so many people are on it." Darren nodded slowly. "Sounds like a circus." Kelly grinned. "You'd be surprised how many couples meet there." Her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced at the screen, then toward the door. "I gotta go." Darren crossed his arms. "You still didn't answer my question." "What question?" "Is the guy outside?" Kelly paused. Then she smiled again. "Yes." She opened the door. Sunlight spilled into the room. A moment later, her car door slammed outside, and the engine started. The sound faded down the street. Darren sat alone again. But now the name Pink Passion lingered in his thoughts, like a small idea quietly tapping at the inside of his mind. The house grew quiet again. The television continued playing in the background, the commentators shouting about another long pass from Tyler Maddox. But Darren's attention had already drifted elsewhere. Pink Passion. He leaned forward in the recliner, elbows resting on his knees. The name scratched at something in his memory. Then it surfaced. Quentin. A childhood friend he had reconnected with not long ago on Facebook Messenger. They had grown up on the same block, played pickup basketball at the park, chased girls neither of them had the courage to speak to. Quentin had moved to Connecticut years ago. They hadn't spoken in decades, until a few months ago. Darren remembered the messages clearly now. Quentin had mentioned the app during one of their late-night conversations, said it was full of beautiful women of all ages. Quentin had laughed through the text messages. Man, it's like fishing in a lake with no one else around. Darren swallowed. A month later, Quentin died. Motorcycle accident, just like that. No warning, no goodbye. The last conversation they ever had involved that same app now circling Darren's thoughts. Pink Passion. Darren leaned back in the recliner again, staring at the ceiling. He thought about Valerie in the bedroom, thought about the silence that had crept into their marriage over the years, thought about the way she used to look at him when they were young. Then he thought about the last time they had sex, nearly a month. He rubbed his chin. Just curiosity, he told himself. Nothing more, just looking. People looked at things on the internet every day. It didn't mean anything. Slowly, he pulled his phone from his pocket. The screen lit up his face in the dim den. His thumb hovered for a moment over the app store. Then he typed the name, Pink Passion. The icon appeared instantly. Thousands of reviews, millions of downloads. Darren hesitated only a second longer. Then he tapped download. The progress circle spun for a few seconds. And when it finished, the small pink icon appeared on his screen. Darren opened it. Within minutes, he was creating a profile. Name, age, location. He paused at the photo section. His mind worked quickly. Then he opened Facebook. Quentin's page still existed. Even till this day, they still resembled each other. 3 photos stood out immediately. One of Quentin wearing a tank top at the beach. One of him standing in front of the Eiffel Tower. One holding a small Labrador puppy. Darren downloaded all 3. Women like dogs. Everyone knew that. Within seconds, his profile was complete. He sat back in the recliner, waiting. The television continued shouting behind him. Then the phone vibrated. A notification appeared. New message. Darren's heart gave a small, unexpected jolt. He opened it. User 1Diva. Hi, cute pictures. I have a Labrador too. Darren stared at the message for several seconds. His thumb hovered above the keyboard. The football game continued roaring from the television. Commentators shouted excitedly as the Austin Armadillos marched downfield again behind quarterback Tyler Maddox. Darren barely heard them, his heart beat slightly faster. It surprised him. He hadn't felt this kind of nervous energy in years. Finally, he typed, "Thanks. You've got some nice pictures too." The message sent. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Typing. 1. Diva. "Thanks, honey. You're a handsome chocolate man." Darren leaned back slowly. He opened her profile. Every photo showed her body. Long legs, round hips, smooth skin glowing under club lights. But not one picture showed her face. That detail made him hesitate. Still, his pulse kept climbing. He typed again. "Darren, what kind of guy are you looking for on here?" The reply came quickly. 1 diva. "Someone like you." Darren exhaled through his nose. The room felt warmer now. He glanced down the hallway toward the bedroom, still quiet. Valerie was probably asleep. Sunday naps had become routine for her. He lowered the brightness on his phone and kept typing. "Darren, here's a little about me. I'm 43, work at the post office, got a 20-year-old daughter." He paused, then added the lie. "Darren, my relationship status is complicated." The typing bubbles appeared again. 1 diva. "Okay, I'm single with no kids. Your daughter's age, actually." Darren swallowed. For a moment he hesitated. Then another message appeared. 1 diva. "Don't judge me, but I work part-time as a stripper." Darren smirked. "Darren, no judgment. Make your money." The reply came instantly. 1 diva. "I like older men. They treat women better." Darren shifted deeper into the recliner. A strange excitement had begun building in his chest. He hadn't flirted like this in decades. His thumbs moved faster now. "Darren, you do private dances?" The typing bubbles returned. 1 diva. For the right person. On the television behind him, Tyler Maddox threw another touchdown for the Armadillos. The stadium roared. Darren didn't even look up. The conversation on his phone had already pulled him somewhere else entirely, and with every message, he thought less and less about Valerie sleeping down the hallway. Darren's smile slowly widened. The conversation had shifted. What began as harmless curiosity now carried a different tone, something more deliberate. His thumbs moved across the screen. "Darren, you sexy as hell. I'll give you anything you want. Just ask." The typing dots appeared again. They seemed to take longer this time. Then the message came. 1 diva. "Oh, I know you will treat a lady." Darren leaned back in the recliner. The den lights were off now. Only the television flickered across the walls. The Austin Armadillos were still piling on points against the Denver Stallions, but Darren hadn't looked up in several minutes. His attention belonged entirely to the phone. "Darren, is it just a lap dance, or can I expect more?" A pause. Then, 1 diva. "Honestly, I never offered more than a dance." Another pause. The typing bubbles returned. 1 diva. "But for the right amount, you can have all of me." Darren inhaled slowly. The words settled in his chest. 22 years of marriage had erased the thrill of flirting, the anticipation, the uncertainty, the reckless excitement of something new. But now it was back, and it felt dangerous. He sat upright in the recliner. "Darren, let's meet soon. Tomorrow evening?" The reply came almost immediately. 1 diva. "Pick the time." Darren's fingers moved quickly. "Darren, 6 p.m., 3 dots. 1 diva. Sure, your place?" Darren's eyes flicked down the hallway toward the bedroom. Still quiet, still dark. Valerie was asleep. He typed, "Darren, number Gregor Inn off Highway 65. His heart began beating harder. He hadn't even realized he had already made the decision. "Darren, give me a minute so I can book the room." Darren stood from the recliner. The room suddenly felt too small. He walked toward the front door, quietly stepping outside into the warm evening light. The air smelled like fresh pavement and distant barbecue smoke from somewhere down the street. He pulled out his credit card. Within minutes, the reservation was made. Room 226. Darren typed the message. "Darren, room 226. Meet me there." The reply came seconds later. 1 diva. "Okay, honey. See you tomorrow." Darren stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he slipped the phone back into his pocket and walked inside. Just as he stepped into the den, Valerie emerged from the bedroom in soft slippers that clapped gently against the floor. She walked toward him, placed her hand on his shoulder. "I'm getting back in shape," she said softly. "My jeans feel tight again. Maybe we should start working out together like we used to." Darren turned toward her and forced a small smile. "Yeah," he said, "we should." But inside his mind, something had already shifted. Tomorrow evening had already been decided. The next day moved slowly, too slowly. Darren tried to focus on work at the post office, but the hours dragged like heavy chains. Every few minutes, his mind drifted back to the same thought. Room 226. 6 o'clock. He checked his phone more times than he could count. No new messages, just the quiet weight of anticipation sitting in his chest. By the time his shift ended, the sun had already begun lowering across the sky. Orange light stretched across the parking lot as Darren drove home, gripping the steering wheel a little tighter than usual. He told Valerie he had to work late, sorting packages, overtime, a simple lie. She barely questioned it. By 5:45 p.m., Darren pulled into the parking lot of the Gregor Inn just off Highway 65. The building looked ordinary, neutral, forgettable. Exactly the kind of place people met when they didn't want to be remembered. Inside the room, Darren stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting his clothes for the third time. His nerves surprised him. He hadn't felt this way since his 20s, excited, restless, almost reckless. He glanced down at his boxers, red with scattered dots. He had chosen them deliberately. Then he grabbed the small bottle of Twilight Woods lotion from his overnight bag and rubbed more across his arms and chest. The room smelled sweet now, almost too sweet. His phone vibrated. A message, "One diva." Darren quickly unlocked the screen. "One diva." "On my way, honey." His heart jumped. He typed quickly. "Darren, how close are you?" A few seconds passed. Then the reply appeared. "One diva. About 5 minutes away." Another message followed immediately. "One diva. Are you missing me?" Darren laughed quietly to himself. "Darren, been missing you since yesterday." He paused, then added, "Darren, what are you wearing?" 3 dots appeared. Then the message arrived. "One diva. A thong in my butt." Darren stood up immediately, adjusting his pants. His imagination moved quickly, too quickly. "Darren, I have a large package waiting for you." Seconds passed. Then another message appeared. "One diva." What would that be? Darren was about to respond when another message popped onto the screen. "One diva. Outside honey, coming in now." Darren's chest tightened, right on time. He moved toward the door, inhaling deeply once, then again. His hand gripped the handle. The knock came a moment later. 6:07 p.m. Darren exhaled slowly. "Well," he muttered to himself, "here goes." He opened the door. The latch clicked, the door swung inward, and Darren froze. Standing in the hallway was a young woman with straight black hair fading lighter at the tips, gold hoop earrings, a familiar purse hanging from her shoulder. Kelly. His daughter? Time stopped. For a moment, Darren thought his mind had misfired. That exhaustion or nerves had twisted his. Vision into something impossible. But the hallway remained the same, the cheap hotel carpet, the humming ice machine at the end of the corridor, and standing in front of him, Kelly. Her eyes widened the instant she recognized him. The same shock, the same disbelief, the same sick realization. Neither of them spoke. The silence between them felt violent. Darren felt his stomach collapse inward as memories from the past 24 hours rushed, back through his mind like a flood. The messages, the flirting, the things he had said, the things he had imagined, every word now carried a different meaning. Kelly's face drained of color. Her lips parted slightly, but nothing came out. Behind them, a distant elevator bell rang somewhere down the hall. The normal sounds of the hotel continued, but inside the doorway, everything felt frozen. Darren opened his mouth. No words came. Kelly looked down at the phone still in her hand. The screen glowed. Pink passion. One diva. Her shoulders trembled once. Then she turned, and ran. Her footsteps pounded down the hallway, fading quickly toward the stairwell. Darren didn't move. He couldn't. His hand still rested on the door handle. His chest felt hollow. Slowly the truth settled into place. Every message, every word. He had been talking to his own daughter. The door remained open behind him as he stood there, pale and shaking. And for the first time in years, Darren felt something stronger than loneliness. Shame. Darren believed he was chasing something harmless, just a moment of escape. But what stood behind that door wasn't pleasure. It was a reflection of the life he helped shape, a mirror of his sin.
In a world where stories are the essence of life, what if you could be part of creating the next great tale? Introducing Storybook, a community where your imagination comes to life. A place where writers, readers, and dreamers unite to create something extraordinary. With Storybook, your ideas, your stories, and your characters are more than just thoughts. They become part of a larger narrative. Less than 1 billion Storybook tokens are powered by the Solana blockchain. By holding Club's tokens, you gain the power to pitch ideas, give input, and even become a character in the stories you help create. Submit your stories, collaborate with other talented writers, and see your work come to life. Storybook isn't just about storytelling. It's about making your mark in a community that values creativity and innovation. From anthologies to graphic novels, from films to community-driven magazines, Storybook is where your ideas take flight and where your voice is heard. Become part of a movement where your creativity shapes the future of storytelling. Welcome to Storybook, a community where stories come to life.